The Cross'em Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, presented by Clovercrest Media, is what you AEW fans have been looking for. Noah Cross and Tyler Bard give their take on every week's episode of Dynamite. If you are a massive AEW fan, then it is time to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Stay Cross'em.
Welcome to Ivy League Murders. On this podcast, we focus on cases affiliated with the Ivy League, exploring the darker side of higher education. What happens when genius becomes evil? My name is Sarah Alcorn. I'm a Harvard graduate, and I've been a private investigator since 1999. Join me and longtime crime diva Laura McDonald for Ivy League Murders.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Throwing Jabs. I'm Big Jace, joined as always by my main man, Jared Jones. And we got Joe coming here again, second week in a row. So let's talk some fights. Starting off, let's recap the UFC fight from last week. Michelle Waterson beat Angela Hill via split decision, 48-47, 49-46, and then a 48-47 towards Hill. Jared, what'd you think of the fight?
Good fight, close fight. Both girls bordering right around the top 10. The problem I have with this is forward motion. It's not Waterson arguably won, but everybody ranked above these girls smashed them. The other girls in this weight class smashed these two girls. I don't think there's upward. This was like the title fight for both of them. This was their NIT Final Four. This is as good as it gets for these two girls.
Dude, I was shocked. I was shocked by Angela Hill's inability to do really. I mean, you saw post-fight damage to Michelle Waterson's face, but not one punch Angela Hill threw got the knees to buckle at all. I was really surprised by that. I didn't think Michelle Waterson honestly had the. I didn't think she had the gumption to like go toe to toe, and it was shocking to see that. After the fight, I noticed Angela Hill talked about maybe starting to develop her grappling game a little more because I think she's too one-dimensional. I just don't think she punches quite hard enough.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. When you look at Claudia Golday, Yen Jacek, Tatiana Suarez, Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas, these girls can punch. They can take you out with their strikes, and neither one of those girls can hang with them. So while I agree with their ranking, they're both probably top 12. You can't put either one of them past 8th, where Waterson is. The next girl, 7th and 8th on the UFC list, is Waterson and Claudia Golday. You know what Golday would do to Waterson right now? Like, that's not close. There is such a fall off when you get from 7 to 8. So, yeah, NIT finals. And Waterson could call herself the champion of that, but I don't see her going anywhere else in this weight division. Not with that lineup.
Jared, that's a perfect analysis. It's the NIT Final Four. That's perfect.
Yeah. This was the battle to see who is the ultimate gatekeeper for that women's division. If you can get past Waterson, you deserve a shot at one of the top names.
I'd probably put Carla Esparza in that list as well, of the kind of second tier of fighting girls there. But there are some tough names up there, Jace.
Yeah, I think really the only way Waterson, maybe Hill can find a way in this, to get a title shot or a belt is if the UFC makes an atom weight class. Because if you bring up those people that are at the top of that division, there is a drastic size difference between like Waterson and Jacek, Waterson and even Rose. Like you can tell she's small for this weight class. So,
well, and even for this, even outside of this weight class, you have just weight in the number 8th ranked heavyweight right now is Walt Harris. Right? Walt Harris always has a puncher's chance. Am I wrong? Like he could beat anybody in that division if he lands the right punch. That's just not number 8 in this division. Michelle Waterson, that's not true about her. Zhang could stick her chin out and let Waterson hit her with it, or Hill. Like, whatever. There's just not enough power in them or in that weight class for them to even have a chance. The lighter you get, the less chance you have of landing something lucky. If you're Walt Harris, you can do it. If you're Waterson, you just can't.
Yeah.
It's not in her arsenal. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, you're right. And that is also, you brought up weight. Like, even just women's fights in general, most of them go to decision. There's not a lot of finishes. So, yeah, it is rough. Everyone loves to see the knockout and that stuff. But this was a solid showing, a solid performance by both women.
Oh, yeah, solid. But in a moment where they desperately, both of them, needed to define themselves as a woman that's in that upper echelon and not in that second tier, neither one of them did.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know, the only thing that could have been worse is if this would have been a draw. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, now maybe they could fight again, though.
I will say this, though. Kudos to them, because that was an outstanding fight. I mean, you know, and again, like I said right off the top, Michelle Waterson took so many punches to the face, never did the knees buckle. And to me, I definitely thought she won the fight. I thought 3-4-5 definitely went to her. I just thought the way she controlled the fight, and even at times when they weren't on the ground, she just stood toe to toe with Angela Hill, which again, I was like, is she out of her mind? She's good, but nothing. There was never a moment where I thought Waterson's in trouble here, which is bad news for Angela Hill, who once again comes up on the short end of a narrow decision. Kind of got the Jorge Masvidal from a few years back, where like just never seemed to go his way. I feel bad for her. She's a good fighter. She was really upset afterwards. She really thought she did enough to win. But again, to me, the difference was there was never a moment where I thought the fight was over at the hands of Angela Hill. Waterson got close a couple times on the ground. And really, to me, and I'll tell you, too, in the clenches, Waterson's strength over Angela Hill also really surprised me. I thought, like, Angela Hill should at least be able to kind of manhandle her a little bit. Not even close.
Well, and I don't want to be that guy, but the science suggests that fights like this are a lot worse for the overall mileage of a fighter. So people like that, I'm going to give you a prime example in boxing, Paulie Malignaggi. We talked about some dumb stuff he said, but as a fighter, he's quick, he's slick, he doesn't get kicked clean a lot, but he could never get the other guy out of there. 30-something fights, I think he had 5 knockouts. I mean, it's just a big number to a small number. He's going the distance in every fight, and he's like a different guy now. There's more mileage on him, you know, and I worry about girls like Waterson, Hill, and fighters in general that have that fighting style, putting too much mileage on in a short time. A fight like that, you'd have been better off getting knocked out in the second round for what it does to your physical.
Yeah. Talking about a fighter that loves to go the distance, let's move on to current events. As Floyd Mayweather is in talks to have a fight later this year with YouTuber Logan Paul. Jared, what are your thoughts on this monstrosity?
Everybody's got to know what I think already. Everybody's got to already know what I think already. It's
the fight nobody wants to see. It's literally the fight that nobody wants to see. I was just saying to Jace before we went live, you know, look, Floyd Mayweather, when he got to 50, you know, kind of cemented the legacy, even though, you know, he's definitely a Dodger and definitely fought everybody way past their prime, and that's fine. But now you're just embarrassing yourself at this point. I said to Jace, I have an idea for him. What about, he's got all his money. Why don't you make a movie about yourself, cast yourself in the starring role, and you could recreate your fights, and you won't get punched back as your, you know what I mean? It's the best of both worlds for Mayweather. He gets to keep on fighting and winning. He
against actors. Against actors. Yeah, that's what these guys are, the actors.
It would be great. He can watch it on the screen afterwards. You know, he wouldn't be able to read the credits, but he would certainly enjoy the film.
And that's what infuriates me is it's like the general public still looks at this as, some of them look at this as boxing at the top of the game. And it's just not. It's deceptive. It's a sideshow. There is a distinct difference between fighters and entertainers. And for the most part, the entertainers don't want anything to do with the fighters.
Yeah.
And this is an example of two guys now that are entertainers, and one of them used to be a fighter. And we need a spot for this. We got to stop calling it boxing. It's disappointing. It's unfair to the real fighters out there. Now you're going to put some guys on the undercard, some hungry, good fighters at the top of the boxing game, and you're going to put them on the undercard of a YouTuber and a guy I don't have in my top 50.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to look at it like this is professional fighters at the top of the game. It's tragic. It's tragic because you should have done more for us. I don't want to put the blame in any one person. I can't just hand it to Canelo Alvarez and say, this is your torch to carry. You have to be our Muhammad Ali. I can't hand that to Floyd Mayweather and say, you have to do that for us. Conor McGregor with Combat Sports. I can't just hand it to one guy. But please, can we have a Muhammad Ali? Can we have a Martin Luther King, a JFK? Where are our great speakers? Where are our leaders in boxing? It's infuriating. Floyd Mayweather, you are a shame. You are a disgrace to our sport at this point. We don't want you anymore. Get out.
I agree with that. This is not boxing. This is spectacle. This is something that should go to WWE. This is wrestling.
I built something for this.
Yeah,
it's scrub scraps. This is a scrub scrap is what it is.
Yeah.
Make no qualms about it. This is an exhibition matchup where you get the helmets, you get a little bit extra gloves, you get the refs, you get your standing A counts. You keep everybody safe because one of them is a 50-0 professional boxer and the other one's a YouTuber. So our number one priority should be safety and not fanfare. And it's not. It's always dollars and cents, and it's disgusting.
You're right.
Well, let me take that a step further. What Jared said, look, I think boxing right now really is lacking an identity, leadership, as you call it, especially I think in the heavyweight division where things are a little messy and you don't necessarily have a dominant champion like we've had for years. It's a sad state where boxing is right now. It's definitely been losing out to the other combat sports, and where it needs like a huge fight. This is what Mayweather offers his sport. Thanks for everything. I'll fight a YouTuber. Disgusting. Yeah. Really is.
Wild West.
This needs to be in WWE. This is like Karl Malone versus Dennis Rodman. Like they need something like this.
Get Screeching Horseshack out there. We'll watch it. We'll cheer. I promise you, we'll watch it and we'll cheer. I would watch. Biden fights Trump. I want to see. I'd take him out behind the gym. I'd like to see it. Let's do it. But let's not call it professional boxing, please. No. Let's not pretend we're looking for the best fighter in the world when we're looking to sell tickets. Those are two different things. And if they're not differentiated, you're not being fair to Loma. You're not being fair to Beterbiev. You're not being fair to the greatest fighters in the world. To have Floyd out there fighting Logan Paul for the biggest paycheck and putting those great fighters on the undercard. It's disgusting. Those are two different things. One of them's entertainment. The other one's fighting. You're trying to figure out who the best fighter is? Do it in professional boxing. You're trying to figure out who the best guy is that night and give him a little trinket? Call it the WBA.
Yeah, and stop calling yourself the greatest of all time. You're not. You're a joke. Stop it.
Yeah, this is it's disgusting at this point.
Well, what really does suck, Jared, you mentioned it, like last time we talked about Logan Paul and when he fought the other YouTuber KSI, they had Billy Joe Saunders and Regis Prograis on the undercard. Two champions with two YouTubers as the main event. This is going to have the same stuff. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Gervonta Davis gets on this. This is just disrespectful and like it's.
You've got Lopez and Loma fighting. Finally, two of the best guys at the top of the division are fighting each other, and you're hearing less about it than about this. And again, no disrespect to the entertainment side. Go get your money. I love the idea. Just call it something different because you're confusing people. I saw a grown man, and it's a Facebook post, so I use the word grown man very loosely. There's no telling what this thing was. But he says Logan Paul has the opportunity here to blaze his trail and become the greatest combat sports athlete of all time.
What the what?
What? Is this guy serious? What?
Wrong.
Yeah. What's in his weeds?
Yeah, no, just no. That's
psychotic. If you saw what Mayweather did to McGregor, he basically played with him, and that's what happens when you've got a guy who's done, 30,000 hours worth of boxing against, a carpenter or a YouTuber or, even an MMA guy. It's not the same thing. He throws punches and stuff, and he's done a lot of that too. My brother Joel said, that's like saying Tiger Woods is really good at hitting a ball with a stick. He should play second base for the Yankees. This is what the guy does. Floyd Mayweather is not going to out YouTube Logan Paul. He doesn't try. There's no reason Logan Paul, except for hits and followers and dollars and cents, to be fighting Floyd Mayweather. And that's just where we're at in society right now. We need another place to have it and another thing to call it so that it can make sense to the rest of us who love the sport.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Floyd Mayweather start a book club of the month. I think that might be a more worthwhile endeavor for him. Ain't
that many C-spot runs out there. There'd be about 3 books in that. You make it to March and be like, that's
green eggs and ham, cat in the hat.
April, everybody poop.
Oh Lord. All right.
Okay.
But before we move on, Logan Paul won a split decision against another YouTuber. Now he's going up against a 50-0 former champion. That makes no sense. Well, this whole thing makes no sense. But okay, let's go to the
I do feel better that he's not coming off the loss. At least there's that.
Yeah.
It just makes it worse. Yeah.
For sure.
All right. The Dustin Poirier and Tony Ferguson saga. We talked about it last week, how it got canceled. And then after Dustin Poirier couldn't reach terms with the UFC on the contract, Tony Ferguson came out and offered to put his own money to fix whatever problems Dustin Poirier had with the contract just to make this fight happen. Then Ariel Helwani, an ESPN reporter, reported that free agent and former lightweight Bellator champion Michael Chandler was going to step in, sign with the UFC, and step in to take on Tony Ferguson. Then we get the final announcement that Michael Chandler is officially in the UFC, and he is an alternate because he is an alternate for the Gaethje-Khabib fight because him and Dustin Poirier couldn't come to terms on a fight. So with all this being said, what do you guys think of all this madness? And what do you guys think of, starting off with you, Jared, what do you think of the addition of Michael Chandler into the lightweight division?
I like it. This Chandler kid can fight. He beat Eddie Alvarez. He beat Benson Henderson twice. Yeah. Benson Henderson, not my favorite fighter, but that's a solid victory. And you beat him twice. I mean, he is a tough out, Benson Henderson. Alvarez was just a champion. He has a win there. I'm with it. I like it. I said earlier in a segment that there's a distinct difference between fighters and entertainers. And I think Dustin Poirier has has exposed himself as a bit of an entertainer here. And Tony Ferguson has exposed himself as a bit of a fighter here. And as I said, the vast majority of the entertainers want nothing to do with the vast majority of the fighters. The guys that really want to be at the Tony Ferguson, thank you. All that stuff I just said, thank you, Tony Ferguson, for acting like a fighter at the top of the game. That's what we need you guys to do. If you want to go that route, you want to entertain, fine. Me and my buddies have floated the idea of an and one street boxing tour. You want to do it? I mean, if you're going to do it, though, go ahead and do it. And if you're not, you're at the top of the game. Hey, bump the money, kid. Let's get in the cage and find out who the better fighter is. I love that. I love that. And I love that he went public with it. Whatever it is that's going wrong in your pocketbook, I'll fix it and we can fight. And I've been there before with scrubs. Oh, I don't get in there without any money. That's what people say when they're scared. I get that, that timid, and they go all the way to the tough guy thing of, if I'm not getting paid, I'm not doing it. So what do you need to get paid? You can fight me. What do you need to get paid? They just don't. If you don't want to be there, don't go. And I've never felt like this about Dustin Poirier before, but a contract dispute at that level of game, that sounds like you're letting the insane run the asylum. You've got your people, your number crunchers in there arguing with the other guy's number crunchers, and so you're not getting a deal done.
Yeah.
Jace, I don't know if you know this or not, but Jared and I sparred once, and he caught me in the ribs on the left side. Jared, you know this. 3 weeks that thing hurt. For 3 weeks, my rib hurt. Jared knows how to fight, and I just want to put that out there that he's not just talking junk here. I think the big thing is Dana White says that Ferguson hasn't agreed to fight Chandler. I don't know if he wants to necessarily. I don't know why. But there's no indication right now that he's even interested in getting into the ring with Chandler. He definitely wants Poirier, and I don't blame him. I feel like Poirier is a good fight for Ferguson. It's the fight I think fans want to see. I've been dying for this fight. We'll see what happens, but and I agree with you too, Jared. Chandler's a good addition to the UFC and to that division. Which is already, I think, the best division in the sport. So I wish Dana would just pony up and pay Poirier and let's get it on. I mean, for real, this is so silly. This isn't, it's funny. While baseball was negotiating during the month of May and June, people were like angry. Again, the idea these guys are making millions of dollars, and it's like, just come on, we need something. We're sitting home in a pandemic, for crying out loud. How much money do you need?
Yeah. At some point, somebody take the hit and just put the show on.
Yeah. One thing I'm a big Tony Ferguson fan, so I will come to his defense here. Having to spend months or spend at least a month and a half getting ready for Dustin Poirier to then we're like a little less than a month out of the fight, to have it switch up to Michael Chandler, that's a completely different game plan. So I understand why he wouldn't take that fight instantly. But also, I don't know what type of Michael Chandler we're getting here. With something happened. It's a lot of people, when they have the success outside of the UFC, they wait a long while before making the jump. Look at Ben Askren. And once they make the jump, they're out of their prime.
Well, you don't get it. You're not as hungry when you're eating that.
You're right.
I mean, when I was younger, I always I'm looking at everybody like, I wonder what that would look like. I want to fight that guy. I got my ass kicked a lot of times doing that. I could never fight with Chad Dawson, Jose Rivera. The guys at the top of the game, Matt Remillard, when I was in the gyms, even the guys at like the middle of the game were kicking my ass. But I like the guys that want to go in and actually do that. You know, I can't understand. You go see, and that's what happens inside of me when you say that's a different guy, that's a totally different game plan. I mean, I showed up to Scrub Scraps to fight this kid that was ex-Silver Mittens. He was 5'5", 130 pounds. And I honestly didn't know what I was going to do with him because he's ferocious. Shout out Billy DeCarling. He ended up having like something, catastrophe happened. I fight this left-handed 240-pound. I mean, I wanted to fight. There was another guy, so I fought him. You know, and that's where I feel like if Poirier wanted to fight, you take the pay cut. If Poirier wanted to fight, you take Ferguson's money and you fight him. If he wanted to fight, you take Chandler and you fight him. If you don't want to fight, call out a YouTuber. Like, I don't understand what's going on here. Does the dude want to fight or he doesn't want to fight? Somebody offered to fix your pocketbook. Get in the cage. If you're not there, you're not there. I'm not there anymore. I don't walk around like, you know, I still wonder from time to time, but I'm not ready to test it every time I see somebody 6'5", 280, like, I wonder what would happen with that guy. You know, I used to be more excited, so I'm not like in the game like that, though. I'm not competing at the top of the game because I'm not in it anymore. If you're not in it anymore, dude, find something else to do with your time. You can crochet or join a bridge club or something.
All right.
Well, I got a question for you, Jared. Do you think Poirier doesn't want the fight, or do you really think it just came down to money and terms of contract?
I think that whoever's in Ferguson's camp that's helping him make the terms of the contract didn't like him saying, you can have the extra money, let's fight. And I think whoever's talking to Poirier had him a little bit more. I'm sure he would take the fight, but how do you let dollars and cents get in the way of that? You got frustrated by the negotiations, or you thought your numbers were too low, or you got sensitive about something. You know, when you were young and hungry, you cared less about that stuff. And at some point, that's like superseding the other stuff. And the other stuff is what you're doing here. So shit or get off the pot. That's frustrating to hear. He said no to the pay cut. Then he said no to somebody else paying the money. And now he's saying no to a new fighter. I don't know. Get on the undercard. See what KSI is doing. Find something else to do. I don't know if you don't want to fight
coming
these
off
guys.
the loss. That could only help.
You have to be ready to, dude. This has got to be as hungry as you're going to be. This is the hungriest Poirier we should ever find right now at his age, coming off a loss. This should be as hungry as we've ever seen him. And he sounds more like he's, you know, questioning his profession.
Yeah, you're right. Well, he worked his way up to the top, and then once he found that Khabib, he realized, okay, this isn't. I'm not meant for this. So maybe that is something. Maybe he is struggling with his idea of being at the top. So I don't know. We will see.
Hey, to be fair, dude, that was my Chad Dawson. I did that. No matter how good I got and how much I trained, I was never going to be able to fight with the all-world 6'3", 158-pound left-hander that fought righty. You know, he went on and beat B-Hop twice after that. But when we were younger, you know, there were times where we did like little drills and stuff, and I would try to compete with him there because I knew once we got in the ring, the higher I turned it up, the higher he was going to turn it up, and I would just be a little bit, I was never going to be that good. That's a tough realization when you get to something, because a lot of people think, oh, if I just trained for that a little bit of practice, I'd be awesome at that, whether it's boxing or whatever else, you know, and the fact is, we're just different people. We're built different. And I got to that spot that you're talking about with Poirier where I think he is right now. You see the top of the game and you're like, okay, that's where I would need to get if I'm going to compete in this game at the highest level. And you can't reach that. What's the next step? Waterson and Hill. You just reach for the rung you can reach. Maybe that's where Poirier is. I agree with that, Jace. That's a decent assessment for sure.
Right. Now let's stay in the lightweight division as Conor McGregor gets arrested while vacationing with his family in France due to allegations of sexual assault, where he was at a club and on his way to the bathroom, he allegedly flashed a woman. Obviously, the French police released him from their custody, and McGregor denies all these allegations. And Dana White did come out in a press conference and say that he doesn't know if it's going to be a fight, but he has a lot of stuff planned for Conor McGregor coming up next year. So, Jared, what
else would it be? A wrestling match?
Maybe.
Some ping pong? What's he got planned? I want to see what White's got up his sleeve. Listen, this is like sideshow freak. This is the part of the show. We don't want to get into any copyright infringement. So I'm just going to ask the viewers at this point, this is what I want you to go watch. It's 2 minutes and 14 seconds of your time. It's a Def Poetry Jam poem called What Tiger Said. What Tiger Said. And it's about Tiger Woods and how, again, you don't want to this guy directly places the blame with Tiger. But you don't want to place, it's just a shout out to the McGregors and Mayweathers and John Joneses of the world that really could have done something here to lead the way and have just left full communities of people when you should have. LeBron James, I can't stand you on the court, but you're a leader, man. Whether I agree with your politics or not, you're out there doing things to try to make change. A lot of people on the right side of the fence want to say, oh, they should be out there in their neighborhoods instead of, putting stuff on their jersey. He's doing both. Can't he do both? The fact that we kneel during a national anthem doesn't mean we're not a leader in the community. So we really, as a fighting community, we need these guys to step up. We need guys like this to be leaders. McGregor, John Jones, please stop. It's disgusting, and it's setting us further back. The worst that people have to say about us as fighters, as fight fans, we're just meatheads. These are addicts and violent people with trauma that are just out flashing their penises in public. They're pulling their penises out. They're doing drugs. They're crashing cars. And you guys are out there making them right. They want to shut down our sport completely. And you're helping them. They want to take away your job. And you're on their team. You are their biggest advocate. It's time to step up, guys. McGregor, this is disgusting. What Tiger Said. 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Joe?
I really like Conor McGregor a lot. I would tend to believe this was true just based on every previous experience we've seen with Conor McGregor, whether it's smashing a cell phone, throwing a dolly through Khabib's bus, whether it's...
I'm actually surprised this is the first time his penis is flown out in public and somebody told him.
Yes. In 2019, the New York Times reported twice he was under investigation for a rape in Ireland. So, here's the thing, and I feel bad for fighters and for professional athletes. I know a lot of hockey players, too, and most of them are almost like a little psychotic. I think when you play in a sport where, you're getting punched in the face over and over again, to expect these guys to, in real life, not be overly aggressive or to expect them to, to be all suited up and speaking proper. I mean, look, most of these guys came from pretty poor backgrounds, kind of.
But Joe, we expect him not to rape people.
No, listen.
We expect him to keep his penis in his pants.
This is not me condoning rape. It definitely, just so we're all clear here.
Oh, get the wrong guy. Okay.
No, sir. I'm just saying, look, this goes back to, I grew up in Mike Tyson's heyday, and to watch that guy's whole career fall down the tubes after Customato died, it was, when you're surrounding yourself with yes men and there's a ton of money, boy, the things you can do, again, you're putting guys who have at least some degree of brain damage in charge of a lot of money, and you surround them with people who encourage their behavior. You're gonna run into this stuff. I mean, this shouldn't surprise anybody when a fighter acts out. But you're right, Jared. What does this do for the sport? The antics of Conor McGregor, at a weigh-in, at a press conference, are funny. There's value there. Throwing a dolly through a bus, or just overall acting like a maniac when you're not. It doesn't do anything to represent the sport. It doesn't help combat sports. There are people that would love to see this shut down, and every time you see something like this, it's another step towards that. Look at all the football players, whether it be through suicide or murder. I mean, there's definitely something to getting hit in the head and not being able to always act your best. And again, I'm not trying to defend any of their actions, but I think these guys
15 to 40%.
There definitely needs to be
15
more.
to 40%.
That certainly jives with I think what we see again outside of the sport, where these guys, especially when people retire, Mayweather, a great example, doesn't know what to do with himself. It's a shame. I mean, these guys need to be able to put their time and efforts into something. Weird McGregor's off with his family on a vacation, and in the middle of I think they got married while they were there. He proposed to her. To D, right? Isn't that what happened? Yeah. So it does seem a little bizarre that he would suddenly whoop his dick out somewhere, and it's shocking. But do I believe it? Probably.
Yeah.
It falls in line.
Yeah, sure does. And I always say that these guys. I'm lost. I'm lost with this one. I just can't. I can't.
It's wild.
You need people to criticize you. Haters are a real thing. People do hate. I'm sure I get my share of hate where people just hate because my life's going pretty well. People look at things that you have, they want them, they hate on you. Okay, so hate is real. But constructive criticism is real too. And we've gotten to a point in our society where we somehow always correlate constructive criticism with hate. Joe, you criticize me. Jace, you criticize me. You guys have both told me to change things that I'm doing, parts about my life, and I take it and I say, is this somebody who cares about me? Who has my best interest in mind? Or is this somebody who's just going to tell me something to try to get where they're trying to go? And I know that you guys give a damn about me. But when I look at almost every really evil thing that's happened in our world, really, really downright evil, it's somebody who wasn't communicating with anybody else about what they were doing or had everybody around them supporting what they were doing. And when you reach the status, like you were just talking about, Joe, with a lot of yes men around you, and you start losing track of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I brought up those two guys at the home invasion, who one without the other, petty crime and BS. You put them together, they're ready to lock down a house, rape everybody in it, and set it on fire, and just kill everything. They found somebody else to kind of support that agenda. So Conor's got this twisted agenda from time to time. Andy Ruiz let those people destroy him because I believe firmly he didn't have somebody close enough to him to go, hey, this is a chance, the one chance you're going to get, and you're messing it up. You're screwing it up. If that was you, Jace, if that was you, Joe, I would stop you and I would say, brother, you're messing this up. You're not going to get another opportunity like that. And I care too much about you to stand here and watch what you're doing to yourself. I got to either be somewhere else or find a way to stop you. Which leads me to believe maybe Conor McGregor doesn't have any friends.
Damn.
Sorry, that took me a while to get out, but I didn't want it to.
There's something to be said about being a very unlikable person and what that might do for your friend circle, and you're probably right.
Yeah. All right. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we will be back to preview tonight's fights.
When I was 12 years old, I became a Jack Nicholson superfan. This happened almost overnight on an evening in February 1997 when I first saw The Shining.
Here's Johnny!
In those 20-plus years, I never stopped being a Jack superfan.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Get ready for You Don't Know Jack, hosted by me. Subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform.
All right. We have a banger of a UFC card tonight. No title fights, but big names on it. Starting off with the main event, former UFC champion Tyron Woodley takes on former interim UFC welterweight champion Colby Covington. This is a fight any UFC fans been wanting for a long, long time. There's so much trash talk between them. That they used to be training partners and since have parted ways. Colby Covington training somewhere else, no longer at American Top Team. There's a lot of heat. This fight is going to be fun. The only problem I have with it is Tyron Woodley. What the hell is going on? Because something's going on with him in his past couple fights. Jared, what do you think of this fight?
I like it. Covington just came off a loss to Usman. That's the thing that kind of gets me about it is he's I guess they're both fighting for that next shot, you know?
Yeah. Woodley's on a 2-fight skid. Burns.
Yeah, everybody on this is coming off a loss. Honestly, everybody's coming off a loss.
Somebody has to win is the good news.
Yeah, well, Usman, who beat Covington, and Woodley says he thinks Covington is too much for Woodley, and I tend to agree. I love Tyron Woodley. He was one of my favorites, but he's 38, coming off actually 2 losses. In his 19 wins, only 7 knockouts. I think he's on the unfortunately on the downside of his career. Covington, not a big puncher, but man, my goodness, Usman had to break his jaw literally to knock him out. So I just don't know if Woodley still got what it takes. I mean, this fight could certainly, if he wins this could certainly get him back into contention, but I love Tyron Woodley. It might be, if he loses this one, it might be time to.
So who's going to win? Who are you picking? You picking Covington?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like Woodley.
I love Woodley. Don't get me wrong. I love Woodley. I want him to win the fight, Jared. If I could pick the winner, I would say it was him. I don't think he can take Covington out. And Usman agrees with me, not you.
I mean, I like Woodley too. When he lost the belt to Usman, it made sense. He was working on his rap album at the time. It made sense that Ed wasn't all in it. And when he was in the cage, you could tell there was just something about him that wasn't normally like that. And then fast forward to him against Gilbert Burns, I don't know. If he can't get ready, there is so much bad blood between these two. If he can't show up tonight for this fight, you're right, Joe. He's got to hang it up. He's got to call it quits. He's got to go back to rapping with Wiz Khalifa because this is just like there is so much bad blood between these two.
Crochet with Poirier. Find something else to do. Well, then that's why I like Woodley, Jace. I totally agree with you. That's why I like Woodley. I think this is, again, as if you're a fighter, if there is a fragment of fighter inside of you, then this is as hungry as you're ever going to be to win a fight. And, if he doesn't do it here, we might have to have betrayals.
Yeah, this is... He has
better
to
call Tyrone.
And everything is on his side here. Like, he needs to get back up. He's going... I love how Covington does the whole WWE heel shtick that he does. That
Genius.
Makes everyone hate him. So Woodley's going to have... I know there's not going to be any fans, but every fan watching at home wants Woodley to win because they hate Covington. So if he doesn't pull it out, he's got to call it quits. It's got to be over for him.
It's like Ali used to say, half the people showed up here to see me win, the other half showed up to see me lose, but ain't nobody here to see you.
Yeah, you go.
Genius.
Listen, I really, when I tell you, Tyrone Woodley was one of my early favorites in MMA, and to watch the last couple of fights has been real disappointing for me. Just because I like the guy so much, and in his last fight he looked awful, and I'm just concerned for him. I hope he brings it. I hope he's focused. I hope he can. But 3 in a row at 38, yeah. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that's where the people around you have to step up. Andrade won a boring fight not too long ago. Demetrius Andrade, he's a great boxer. And he won a fight recently, and everybody was like asking him, why didn't you go after it? You were supposed to knock him out, And he said, the people that want you to go to war are not the same people that are going to show up in the hospital after your war. That's a completely different subset of friends. So again, need some friends. You need some friends there. If you're 38 years old and lose 3 in a row to the top of the game, you need somebody close enough to you to say, this is where you're at. Yeah, you lose to Covington. It's time, Woodley. Yeah. Thank you.
Speaking of going to war, let's talk about the co-main event. Donald Cowboy Cerrone tries to play gatekeeper for young up-and-comer Nico Price. This is going to be a banger. This is going to be the fight of the night. Both these guys love to brawl. Nico Price is the only person I've seen knock someone out twice from his back. So this should be interesting. Cowboy's going to bring it as always. You could say similar things to like he's older and that stuff, but every time you think Cowboy's out, he finds a way to get back in. Jared, what do you think of this?
He's an entertainer, I love this guy. He's one of my favorites. He's Justin Gaethje, Nate Diaz. There are just some guys that are full tilt. They want to fight. McGregor, if he wasn't acting, really want to. And Cerrone's one of those, man. He just wants to get in there and bang, whoever, whatever. Got a card next week. I'm down. What's he weigh? You don't have to set a clock. You don't need judges. You don't need weight classes. There's some guys that just want to fight. And Cerrone's he's one of my favorites, man. Him and Gaethje are like throwback guys for me right now. I love them. And yeah, awful for mileage. The scientist and psychologist in me goes, you shouldn't be fighting like that. The boxer in me goes, I would never want to do that. I always wanted to lead with the jab and find a way to not get hit before I find a way to hit. But these guys lead with their face. If I get punched, that means you're close enough to hit. So as a fan, that's one of my favorites, man. Cowboy can bang.
I also am a huge Cerrone fan. I love this guy. I can watch his fights over and over and over again. All the great finishes. And I know he's coming off, a couple losses here. Here's the thing to me about Cerrone. It seems like he wins the fights I want him to win, and he loses the fights he really needs to win. I think this is a winnable fight for him. I think if he can get Price out of the first round, I think he'll definitely take this fight. Price has some big knockouts, all first rounders. I'm not sure that he could last, especially when this thing goes to the ground. Price certainly has size and youth, but I think he's a little sloppy, and I got a feeling Cowboy's going to come through. One kick, all done. I say second round, kick to the head, shin to the head. We're going home.
Okay.
I see it. Right. I see it right here, Jared. I see it. I'm visualizing, and I hope Cowboy is too.
Yeah, well, and I think you're right. The further it goes, the more it benefits Cowboy. But I don't think either one of these guys play good enough. They get offended when you miss them. Neither one of them plays good enough defense to really. Yeah, I don't see this one going the distance. And if it does, talk about putting miles on somebody. Check out these two faces if it goes 5 rounds. Yikes.
Yeah, these guys, this is going to be war. This is a old school gladiator type fight. There will be blood that will be shed.
Fan friendly.
I'll tell you what, I think Price.
There will be blood.
I think Price gets hit too much. And I think when you're fighting a guy like Cowboy Cerrone, I think that's a bad strategy. Not that it's a strategy necessarily, but Cowboy is one of those guys, man, who could put you out, and if he can get you, you know what I mean? This is a very winnable fight for him. He's got to get off to a better start. The last few fights, really, obviously the McGregor fight was a disaster, but again, that first round, he's been getting off to slow starts. As long as he can survive that first round, Jared, I do. I think he can definitely, he gets better as fights go on. I could definitely see this going down for my man.
They'll both hit each other hard, though. Make no mistake about it. And Cerrone is great with the 8 points of contact. He's going to hit this guy with every. If it goes around, I expect him to use all 8 points of contact. I mean, that's and he'll probably connect with all 8 if it goes 2.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are going to hit each other. Make no qualms about it. Yeah, Jay says fight of the night favorite. I'll second that.
Like this whole card is very, very stacked though too. There's Johnny Walker, big up and comer, Mackenzie Dern, Ryan Spann. This is a big fight card. No boxing this week, but this will satiate any fight fans.
Dude, Johnny Walker is a freak.
He is.
And has the personality, I think, to be a superstar in MMA. I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah. The one thing that does suck when his second fight, he gets like the knockout and he like separates his shoulder doing the worm after. It's crazy. But he's a big name, 6'6", tall guy with that knockout power. It's interesting. I want to see him get back into the winning ways in that light heavyweight division. But let's not write him off.
Let's not write him off as an entertainer just yet.
Pushing it.
Yeah. All right. Now we are going to end the show like we always end the show. And Jared hit me with that flurry.
All right. Today, I was going through some old paperwork for Scrub Scraps, and it turns out I've made a lot of different arguments throughout the last 2 years plus that we've been shut down. When we tried to legitimize Scrub Scraps, that's when we found out it was illegal. So after 14 years of running this boxing program, we shut it down and tried to make it legal. I can't help people by putting them in harm's way. So I started making all kinds of different arguments, and this is one of the pieces of paper I came across. Betts versus Newcastle Youth Development Center. And I was making an argument about the likelihood of serious injury in boxing. What most people don't know and most people wouldn't guess is where boxing ranks boxing and MMA and your likelihood of injury. What sport are you most likely to get injured participating in? Injuries per participant is the statistics we're looking at. And a lot of people would say boxing and MMA has to be right at the top. I mean, your goal is to separate someone from their consciousness. How could this not be the most injuries? But the most injuries per participant, cheerleading, then soccer, then football, then hockey, then basketball, and then boxing and MMA comes in sixth. So my wonder with this beautiful life-saving work that I was doing was, why are we allowed to do all those other things? I can practice any of those other things in my yard. But even with mouthpieces, helmets, gloves, wrist wraps, and two people who aren't trying to hurt each other but just trying to get better at the game, it still qualifies as assault. I could be arrested for assault for what Joe and I did in his yard. And that's sick. So what happened to this on this Betts case? On Saturday, April 29, 2006, 17-year-old Eric Betts suffered a tragic spinal cord injury while attempting to make a tackle during a pickup football game at the Newcastle Youth Development Center. Following the injury, Betts sued YDC and several of its staff members, claiming various constitutional violations. The district court found in judgment for the Youth Development Center and its staff, finding them immune from the suit under the 11th Amendment. The YDC houses youths who have been adjudicated delinquent and committed by Pennsylvania's juvenile courts to the care and custody of Pennsylvania Department of Welfare Bureau of Juvenile Justice Services. At the time of his injury, Betts had been committed to the YDC Secure Treatment Program, a maximum security program for serious offenders, and was assigned to one of the 5 residential colleges. On weekends, residents had free time during which they were permitted to use indoor and outdoor basketball courts, several gyms, weight equipment, pool, and an outdoor area for football. So this goes on, but these kids were playing tackle football in a big field and doing a kickoff where they run full speed at each other with no pads. And this kid tried to hit the kid with the ball, got blocked, and is paralyzed from his neck down. And when his parents tried to be compensated for the hospital bills, everybody was clear. It was okay to do what they're doing. They couldn't put helmets and gloves on these kids, these troubled kids whose parents sent them there because they were unsafe at school, because they weren't getting along well at home, because they fought with their siblings. They sent them somewhere where they thought they would be safe. And they participated in a tackle football game. My argument is not to make tackle football illegal, but that if that can help, and if that the rate of serious injury is small enough to deny this family help with their medical bills, when they now have a paralyzed son, they sent a healthy, struggling, troubled 17-year-old and got back somebody who needs moment-to-moment care for the rest of their life and no financial help. Because the court ruled that whether it violates contemporary standards of decency to expose anyone unwilling to a risk, Betts satisfied the objective component of his claim that he must establish seriousness of injury, 1, but 2, a sufficient likelihood that serious injury will result from playing tackle football without protective equipment, and 3, the risks associated with permitting youth to play tackle football without equipment violate contemporary standards of decency. The court finds that Betts easily meets the first factor, the seriousness of the injury, but fails the other 2. So his likelihood in a game where he's 4 times more likely to get injured seriously than boxing or MMA, the Youth Development Center was found not guilty of all crime, not responsible for any injuries. The 17-year-old engaged in this game with an assumption of his own risk, a minor. And his family now has a handicapped child to take care of, 17 years old when they sent him there. He's an adult now, but he still can't move from his neck down. And if we're going to make what I do in my driveway illegal, punishable by 5 years in prison, then that football game maybe needs to get a little extra. We could literally do anything. We can't do auto NASCAR in my yard, horse racing, anything with a live apparatus. But other than that, all these other sports that are more likely to get us hurt, we can do. We can do, but not this one that has the psychological advantage of tuning into somebody's instincts and rewiring the brain. Not that one, because it's too dangerous. 6th on the list of most dangerous sports, and football, tackle football, will give you this over and over and over again. Go back to the beginning before we wore helmets, and 10, 15, 20 people a year were dying playing football. More people died in 1 year playing football than have ever died boxing in the history of boxing. You take the worst football years, you're going to get a couple of them before you get all-time boxing deaths. The serious injury, we need to rewire the rules. And thankfully, in that past 2.5 years, I've made a passionate enough argument to get USA Boxing on our side, where this scraps is something they want to support. When COVID subsides, it is something we're approved to go ahead and do. But if this is okay, if you found this to be okay, and I have other paperwork with people arguing to put boxing programs into prisons, wasted chances to reduce violence with people who need it the most, desperately need it. You know, I got one more story. I'm rambling a bit here, but I'm going to go ahead because I'm on fire right now. I was in prison with this teacher. And this teacher was pregnant. And she got in an argument with a guy who approached her. I don't know what the guy was in there for, but he looked pretty serious when he started walking toward her. And, you know, I would have just got up and started yelling and beating everybody up and rioting and stuff. But I kind of just sat there because I was a teenager at the time and I was scared to death about what was about to happen. But when this guy stood up and walked toward her, a half dozen guys stood up and got in his way. And were ready to take this man's life away if they had to protect that pregnant woman from him. And after that guy was removed, she said, I had a fight in a high school and had to wait for other teachers. Nobody wanted to break the rules to pull a kid off of me in a public high school, but in prison, I was surrounded by men who were willing to break the rules to protect me. You think that those meatheads beating the shit out of each other are the guys to keep your kids away from. When if shit hits the fan, I promise you, those are the guys you want standing next to your kids. You want to get rid of something? Get rid of this. Or help the kid when he gets hurt. You got to lighten up the restrictions on boxing because it gives something to people that need it. It's helpful. It changes lives. And if we're going to make rules, make them make sense. Make them make sense for the Betts family.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy.
Jared, geez, man. It's a little early on a Saturday. Whew.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jared.
Thank you, man.
I did also. I wrote a blog a couple months ago that you can find on the Clovercrest Media Group Medium page, where I spoke about the differences in brain trauma from boxing, MMA, and football. So,
if you got good
time,
article.
check that out. And that brings us to this podcast. It is brought to you by Clovercrest Media Group. Are you passionate about a subject? Do you have a gift for the gab? Are you interested in putting that all together to start your own podcast? If so, check out Clovercrest Media Group. Come and join the CMG podcast family. You can find all information you need at clovercrestmedia.com. Clovercrest Media Group. The harder we work, the luckier we get. Thank you, Jared, and thank you, Joe, for joining me today. Make sure you guys all watch the fights tonight, and make sure you tune in next week because, boy, oh boy, it's going to be a good show. Thank you, and we hope to see you next time.